If you missed the Emilia Grand Prix qualifying, well, then you missed a good one. I'm Tim Hauraney. This is Nailing the Apex. Let's dive right into it. So we'll talk about the tires real quick because it did play a huge role over the entire qualifying process. So it was the debut of the soft C6 compound. The drivers really struggled with it, especially in free practice 3. It's the softest compound that Pirelli does offer, and I think it was the last time it was used was actually during Abu Dhabi postseason test sessions. So the 2-day test session that they held at the end of last year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, so last race of the season, that was the last time they actually bolted these things on and actually used them. So this also may be the only time we really see them used throughout this weekend, and I'll be curious to see where else they might use them as this season progresses. But the big story here, obviously, is Oscar Piastri grabbing pole position for Sunday's Imola Grand Prix. I think he really found his feet in the last push lap in Q3. So he thought it was pretty much all over in the final few corners with all the traffic. So if you didn't see it, in the last few corners, there was a ton of traffic. Oscar was on a really quick final push lap to try and unseat Max Verstappen, who had provisional pole at that time. But I think like one of the things for Oscar sort of managing that situation, because the last two corners at Imola on a push lap are very challenging because they're corners that invite you to push going into them, but they can really bite back if you misstep your turn in and you miscalculate your braking reference and turn in reference. I think we really have to just recognize here how Piastri was able to keep the concentration in those final few corners and not to be overwhelmed by all the traffic that he was having to deal with and manage and face. And heading into his final push lap, he thought that trying to beat Max's provisional pole was going to be tough. He didn't think, or he was unsure whether or not the car had the pace. And for himself, I think he really knew that he had to be very perfect on that final run to really unseat Max from that provisional pole standing. But he managed to find a little bit in a few corners to grab pole. Now, that's literally what the difference was at the end of all this, because it was just so fine margins between those two drivers. He was asked about the C6 tire at the end of this one, and he said his car felt worse when he put that tire on. And he said it was a struggle to not destroy it too early in the lap. So the prep lap was important for Piastri, but then also managing how much to attack, how much to push on that soft tire. And it was interesting, before I came on to record here, I went through the ghost car simulation that F1 passes off to the broadcasters and then posts on social media later. And essentially, when I went through it, I think a big part of Piastri was sacrificing a bit of time and performance in the first sector. But then by the time they got to Acqua Minerale, which is the downhill double right-hander before they shoot back up the hill, that's where he made up a load of time on Verstappen. It was in that section, and then also into the braking section for the final chicane that is at Imola. I'll just pull up the circuit map so I can confirm the corner numbers to you. But yeah, a big part of it, obviously, Acqua Minerale. So we're talking turn 11 and 12 and 13 going up the hill, and then the Variante Alta, which is 14, 15. That's the chicane. So in the braking zone going into that chicane, Piastri able to find some time there on Max as well, and navigating 14, 15. So the curbing getting the curb strikes proper and get them done well. So just a really great lap from Piastri, really great at managing, really great at thinking the lap through and not overdoing it too early, because I think with the C6 tire, yes, it had performance, but if you really did, as a driver should, be aggressive and attack, you chewed up the tire a little bit. So I think for Piastri, just really trying to hold himself back and rein himself in those few sections in sector one was the difference, because he made up a load of time. Like when this gets posted, that I'm sure that ghost car video will be out on social media somewhere, and it was extremely impressive how much time he made up there. It was wild. Max Verstappen P2, car really improved for Max over the weekend. Was a horrible FP1 for him and FP2. He was punching the steering wheel and punching the car during Friday's practice session. So yeah, he was very, very upset with the whole balance of their car on Friday, but just missing out on pole. He did feel better on the medium tire. Was one of the things he spoke about. He felt that the C6 was just on the limit to run at a track like Imola, but he felt that the car just kept coming to life the more the weekend sort of went along. And this is something that is actually, I don't want to say it's tradition, but for Red Bull Racing and for Max Verstappen, this is a common theme that we have seen over the last, I would say, year and a half, where they rock up to the track and like the car is just not there in terms of the balance. And so they have to spend so much time trying to fine tune it and get it into a window where Max can just be like, hey, just get me there and I'll take care of the rest sort of deal. He felt that the tire compound wasn't very helpful to be that soft for them, the tire compound, because that really had a big impact on their car in the balance. And I think when, maybe we get to, maybe not Monaco, but maybe when we get to Spain, different tire compound there, I think we may see a different type of a Red Bull. I really do think that they are going to come back here, and I think Max is going to take a run at this driver's title, because they look like they're really starting to fine-tune this car, because over the last few races, Red Bull seems to keep taking these tiny little steps. George Russell P3 on his first push lap in Q3, he lost about a tenth, and I think he would have been P3 at the end of that first push lap in Q3. I think he lost a bit of time on his last run as well. But following all of this, George did feel that either way, if he ran the C6 compound, so the softest compound, or the medium compound, which he did on his final run, he would have ended up P3 either way, because he felt like that's where the car belonged, even though he did lose a bit of time in that final push lap, but he also lost a bit of time in his first push lap in Q3. So interesting from Russell and Mercedes as well, because again, in qualifying, right there, just a few tenths, right? And that's a couple upgrades, right? Like a couple updates to the car, nothing massive, and they're sniffing at it again. When we get to Spain, I'm going to be interested to see what happens with Mercedes, how they turn things around. For the race tomorrow, Piastri, his long runs looked strong. Verstappen's long runs, they didn't look great. I think Russell will be interesting to keep an eye on. I think George, he does feel that it will be challenging to battle with Oscar on Sunday, but the challenge, I think, for him is going to be keeping Lando behind, and same for Max, keeping Lando behind, because I think that is that's going to be the goal for them, is just try to keep him at bay, because even though it is a very difficult track to pass at, I think that McLaren is going to be strong on their tires again, because again, in the races, this is where that car really comes to life. I doubt that anyone touches that C6 tire in the race. I mean, if the track wasn't as fast, like in terms of high-speed content. I think the C6 may work out better in the racing, but just too many fast sweeping corners at this track for that tire to really last a good amount of laps, let's just say. Lando Norris P4, that's a tough one for Lando. Tough. His final push lap just had just too many mistakes. Too many mistakes in a few corners. Did hear from Andrea Stella following qualifying. He did mention that at the moment for Lando, it's about finding that final 10th within the car, that final 10th of a second within the car, and just getting him comfortable with the MCL 39, because we have heard him talking about this since, I want to say China or Japan. Actually, he did talk about it in Bahrain, if I'm not mistaken. Just not feeling totally at one with this car in some instances, and trying to find the balance window where he can really execute. But again, I mean, this car is really quick. P4 start for Lando Norris. I mean, that is a tough one. Fernando Alonso, P5, and Lance Stroll, P8. This is great for Aston Martin. Really great. I'm going to dive in and tell you why. So Lance ran the full upgrade on Friday. This team brought a full package to this car. And on Friday, Lance ran all of it to confirm that it works. So that meant that Alonso took the full upgrade on Saturday, and that includes floor body, floor fences, floor edge, diffuser, engine cover, new beam wing, and a halo as well. Alonso said that all the analysis both he and Lance did on Friday was very positive, and the result is that they are more competitive, obviously. I mean, they looked sensational. In qualifying, the team really taking a big gamble to start playing around with the different compounds on the car, with the medium and the soft, and the soft and the medium, and a used medium and a used soft. So start playing around with the different compounds, leaving them running mediums on all of their final push laps in Q1, 2, and 3. A really unique strategy by the team. No one else did that except for, George ran the mediums as well in Q3 for his final push lap. It's just interesting to see that the amount of performance that the team was able to get by running the medium compound over running the soft compound. And I'll be interested to hear on Sunday evening why that was. So why weren't they as competitive on the soft as they were on the mediums? Because other teams, they looked competitive on the softs. I mean, they did drop off for some teams, but they were able to kind of squeeze all of the life out of it and get all the performance out of it, making it faster than just a bit than a medium compound, where other teams, they struggled with that. So Aston Martin being one of them, and they rolled the dice and took a gamble, and both drivers executed immediately when they needed to. Lance had said that he said it was an actual upgrade, not a side grade or a downgrade. He finally felt like this was a proper upgrade. It provided more downforce. He said that they do have some bumps and bruises to polish up with this car, but tomorrow is going to be a big test for them and for this update to see how it handles throughout a full race distance with tire management. And I think also the nature of this track was good for them. So I think when we get to like Monaco, they'll get a better idea as to how these updates work out on medium, high, and low speed corners. So Canadian team owner Lawrence Stroll also in attendance. He was walking around congratulating everyone, and everyone was getting a handshake and a high five. Because this was really big for this team. It was huge. You have to understand like where they started at the beginning of this season, the ups and the downs, the points that Lance has been able to get in very difficult conditions. He's the only one that's captured points for the team so far. But again, like it's been a difficult start to the season for them because the car just hasn't been good. It's one of, if not the slowest car out there at some points, and the drivers are making the difference. But now that they've got this update, I mean, it's huge. It's the first major update from the new team principal, CEO, Andy Cowell, and his restructured team. And I remember Andy telling us in Miami sort of, their direction that they wanted to take and that they were trying to take with the state-of-the-art facility that they've got now in Silverstone, the state-of-the-art equipment that they've got now there as well, and making sure, because 2026 is going to play a huge role for them, that all of this equipment is going to be imperative that it all talks to each other. And what he meant by that was that CFD, the amount of time you get with CFD designing your aero components in a virtual world, and then also your wind tunnel, which you only get a limited amount of time running in as well. And then on your racetrack, which again, you only get a limited amount on the racetrack as well, right? You only have practice qualifying in a race. So not a ton of time working with the car. And so making sure that CFD, wind tunnel, racetrack are all talking to each other. It all makes sense. So when they go to develop an update, they go to develop a new component for the car, they know that when they run it through CFD, it gives them something. They run it through wind tunnel, that gives it something, that those two things are going to talk to each other, and it's going to tell engineers, everyone behind the scenes, that this is going to work. And that is extremely important. And this is that first iteration of using their new wind tunnel, using their new CFD, bringing something to this car, putting it out on the track, and it looks like it's worked for Imola, right? We still have to wait and see what it's like in Monaco, Spain. Then you better get a better understanding. But so far, so good for this team. And that's going to speak well to next year and the development that Adrian Newey is doing with the 2026 car. So the result from Fernando and Lance was huge for this team. It took a lot of pressure off them as well, because it showed that this big update really worked, and that's a very positive thing for Aston Martin moving forward. Carlos Sainz, P6, Alex Albon, P7. Really impressive job by both of these. I mean, Williams just continuing to get it done, this time on a track that is the total opposite to Miami. And the conditions too, right? Miami was absolutely sweltering, where Imola not as hot. But Carlos felt like one with the car, and I think that's super important because it's showing us he's comfortable now. He knows how to drive this car, and he knows how to extract its performance, which is impressive because he's so new to the team, and it's impressive how quickly he learned and got up to speed and just changed some of his driving style, which is a really difficult thing to do. They took a big risk by the team putting Carlos out quite late. You would have seen it on the race broadcast as well. He did make a comment about it, and they were running out of time to set a fast lap in Q3. So that meant that Carlos had to push like hell on the outlap, and that took some performance out of the tire for him. So I think he would have been P5 if not for having to deal with traffic and speeding up on the outlap and really driving some performance out of the tire. So Carlos thought for tomorrow, Fernando might be difficult to beat, but that's where his fight for the race tomorrow is. As for Alex, out-qualified by Carlos, he said he felt more comfortable with the car on Friday than he did on Saturday, but said he just didn't feel the car on Saturdays as much, paraphrasing, obviously. And it was just basically damage limitation for him in qualifying. I think he will have to watch out for Lance, who's starting right behind him, because Lance is always good on the starts, and the Aston Martins the cars are good at starts as well. And I think Alex will need a really good getaway to keep Lance at bay. So that could be challenging for sure. Out at the end of Q2, Leclerc, That was a big one. Hamilton, it's another big one. Antonelli, it's another really big one. Gabriel Bortoleto and Franco Colapinto. We'll get into Colapinto in a minute, but I want to start with both Ferraris because getting pushed out along with Antonelli from Gasly and both Aston Martin drivers, pushing those three out. It's extraordinary, really. Leclerc, P11. So watching his in-car video at the end of Q2, he was pissed, absolutely pissed. Charles didn't think there was much left in the car, said they were P nowhere, is what he said. Putting the mediums on, I think, was not something they really thought about doing, but he did just feel that the teams who out-qualified them were just flat out faster than they were. Hamilton, P12, felt that the car has been feeling better this weekend for him, so that's a good sign. And they had some small steps, but putting new softs on the car just didn't respond well to the C6, and to really switch them on and get them working. Just it was really challenging for him to do it and for the car to react well to it. Could be a very tough day, I think, for him on Sunday, and the team as well on Sunday. It'll be super hard to pass at this track. So both drivers really do have their work cut out for them on Sunday. Kimi Antonelli, P13, said he had trouble in Q2 getting any grip out of the tires because Q1 was decent for him. It did look like the soft tire just went away from him at the end of his lap. I would be curious to know what his prep lap was, like what went into it for him. So I'd be curious to learn more about that, because I have a feeling he may have taken a bit too much out of the tire, either on the prep lap or on the first initial part of his push lap as well. But yeah, out at the end. So we'll jump into Colapinto here, because the way I have my notes is a little scattered. But Colapinto P15, but he's going to line up P16. If there aren't any Parc Fermé issues for him, then yeah, he'll be P16. If there are Parc Fermé issues, then he'll most likely be pit lane start. But we'll wait and see on that, because we won't know what's going on with Franco and where he's really, really, truly starting until we get closer to race time on Sunday. But towards the tail end of Q1, Colapinto had a massive crash, went into the barriers head first. So coming out of turn, I want to say, pull up a track map here. I want to say it was coming out of turn 3 and 4, or 4 and 5, but 5 and yes, 3 and 4. So on the exit of the Varianta Tamburello, so 3 in the exit of that chicane, 3-4, dumped a wheel onto the grass, and it was head first into the wall. That's a tough one. I mean, at the end, I was looking at it, he still had a lot of steering lock in the car, so a lot of understeer as well, as the car is kind of pushing out towards the grass area there. I watched on the replay, but you can see that there's other cars that dumped a wheel there, but he was still in the power when he had some lock in the wheel. So yeah, just unfortunate catching him out like that and spitting him across the track and into the wall. Alpine said that Franco was taken to medical center for precautionary checks as per the procedure, and said, quote, he is okay, has been checked and cleared to leave. So that's good. That's good news. Franco also went to the end of pit lane. So he got a penalty for this. So Tsunoda crashed, red flag came out. The FIA issued a restart time that wasn't confirmed, though. So Franco went to the end of pit lane. So he was handed a one-place grid penalty that'll put him P16. We will wait and see again if the team does any changes at the car under Parc Fermé due to his crash. So we will know more before the race whether he will be starting P16 or pit lane. But for Franco and heading towards the pit lane, I've made some notes on what transpired there. I'm just trying to find them because basically you can't go to the end of pit lane. You can't enter the fast lane. Is what it's called, before the restart time was confirmed. So it hadn't been confirmed. So that was the thing, and they let him loose, and that costed him a spot on the grid. So just a really difficult start back for Franco back in Formula One. So yeah, this is going to be one he's going to have to bounce back from because it was a tough outing for him and so far this weekend, but still have a race tomorrow. Could make some magic there. We'll see what happens. A couple incidents, you never know. Let's go into Q1 and talk about Yuki Tsunoda first, even though he's going to be starting dead last, or again, could be starting for Parc Fermé. We don't know yet. Had a massive crash in turn 5-6, Variante Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve had a big crash there too, a long time ago, back in the late 70s, early 80s. Tsunoda was taken to the medical center at the end of that crash. Repairs had to be made to the light panel, the tire conveyor belt at the scene of the accident as well. And essentially, when Tsunoda made contact with the tire barrier, the car just flipped up into the air. It was a massive crash. All four corners on the car destroyed. The team has got a long night ahead of them to put that thing back together. Tsunoda said afterwards that it was an unnecessary situation, but he did say that some sessions with the car were okay and some were not okay. Like there's dropping in and out of balance by the sounds of it. He also said that there was just too much poor pace, and about his mistake, he said it was a stupid mistake, and he's gonna, we'll see where he ends up starting. Tomorrow could be P last, could be from pit lane, depending on Parc Fermé issues. Let's see here. Let's go on to Liam Lawson, P16. But he'll be P15 with Colapinto's penalty from the FIA. Only one true push lap, I think, for Lawson, but didn't get another shot as the red flag came out at the end there. So who knows what could have been for him. Hulkenberg, P17. Ocon, P18. Interesting stories with the Haas's. I think for Ocon, he thought coming in that they would have a decent weekend here. He said they were battling things out of the ordinary that have been catching them out. I assume some of that has to do with the crashes, the red flags, and them being on push laps, etc. But it sounded like the car had some inconsistencies to it as well. I think he just couldn't. I think he couldn't get a good feeling with the front tires, the front end, the front axle. But he wouldn't really dive into too much information as to why that was. Ollie Behrman, P19. He stayed in the car a bit longer at the end of Q1. So the FIA did put it under review to see if the red flag came out before he crossed the line. So that's why he was sitting in the car for so long when Q1 came to an end. Colapinto had his crash, and Behrman was on a great lap that would have put him into Q2. And it all had to do with when he was crossing the line with when the red flag was displayed. I think Anthony Davidson, I saw it on social media, but it looked like Anthony Davidson had done a good breakdown of this on Sky Sports. So if you can find that, I think he dives into a lot of the detail of it, but just a little more background information on this one. So the FIA did invite Haas to come down, and they would show them why he did not advance, why Ollie Behrman did not advance into Q2 and go through it all with them. However, team principal Ayo Komatsu was adamant that Behrman's Q1 time should not have been deleted. He said that there was an overwhelming evidence to say that his lap time should have stood. So that's our position currently, end quote. All that coming from Chris Medlin, who is boots on the ground in Imola this weekend. So really tough one for Haas this weekend at a track that I think they thought they were going to be quite competitive. And just just as the this is interesting. So just as we're talking about Haas, I just got a message from the FIA sort of explaining the Oliver Behrman situation in Q1 with the red flag, and the timing at which it was set at. So 16:32:17. So that being the time of the day. Behrman crossed the line 16:32:20.9 seconds, where the red flag was displayed. They're saying at 16:32:17.6 seconds. Behrman crossed the line at 16:32:20.9 seconds, with the red flag showing on the start gantry. Qualifying 2 was delayed to enable the stewards to consult the relevant timing experts, examine the underlying data to satisfy themselves that the timing system data was valid, and it was therefore right to proceed. So really interesting. I mean, really talking about like hundredths of a second when things are being displayed and when they're not. That's again, right. Just a tough one for Haas, right? Like I was saying before that little message just came through now. This was a weekend where they really felt that they were going to be quick at. And I mean, this team has been, they've been interesting because they have been a little up and down, right? They started off the season, things were a little bit more of a challenge for them. But, however, coming into the next few races after Australia, I mean, things really started to pick up. They started to get some good positions. So just really, again, just inconsistencies with their car and what is going on with their car. So we got some questions to finish this off. Having trouble with Twitter at the moment because things don't seem to be loading properly. So not sure if Twitter is experiencing anything, but here we go. Okay. From Drew on Twitter, Drew Cephaldine. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, man. Why is being a Ferrari fan always pain? I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. But look, it's like, Steve Dangle and his Maple Leafs, right? Adam and I talked about this on the show. Adam and I talked about this on the show before that, the Ferrari and the Toronto Maple Leafs are very, very, very close in terms of that conversation where, a lot of fans just really love them and sometimes things happen and sometimes the team's just not good or sometimes a lot of pressure on the team. They can't handle it. This team's been a lot different, I think, since Fred Vasseur got there. And I think they've been different in a good way. I think their processes and their procedures are done way better now with Ferrari. I mean, yes, they are going to have hiccups. They're going to have mistakes. But I think also going in the direction of trying to not copy, but emulate what McLaren was doing with the front suspension and then trying to do something similar to your front suspension on the Ferrari. I think there's just something in there that they're either missing or they just need an update for it. Because I remember Leclerc telling me that the car did need some updates to it when we were back in Miami. So, yeah, I mean, tough one if you're a Ferrari fan at the moment. Over on Blue Sky, I also got some questions from Cole. Cole Dudley of Blue Sky. I'm going to need an explanation on the Behrman decision. So yeah, Cole. So I just gave that to you. Tough one for Haas. I really do feel bad for them because they've had a really impressive season and this team's been really, really punching above their weight limit. Cameron on the broadcast, they offhand mentioned Red Bull bringing Hajar up. Is that a realistic option? Or a conspiracy theory? I haven't heard anything about Hajar being brought up to the big team yet. That is it's an interesting conversation, interesting topic, but I think you got to stick with Yuki Tsunoda for a while. The car is really difficult to drive. I mean, look at how long it took Max to get that car into a window where he could be competitive with it throughout the weekend. And this is Max Verstappen we're talking about. He's a generational talent we're talking about here. So I think they need to give Yuki a lot more time. That car is very difficult to figure out. And judging, by what he had said today, just trying to get it into a window of balance where it stays there and it can be consistent. And then you can kind of predict what it's, what it's going to do. I think that is, I think that's hugely important, because when you're a driver and you can't fully predict what the car is going to do, you lose a ton of confidence, like a load of confidence. And at the end of the day, if the driver can't trust, what the car is giving them, or what they can perceive the car is going to do when they want to do something with it, that's a huge thing to overcome. It really is. Trust me. That does it for us on Saturday following Imola Grand Prix qualifying. Adam and I will be back with a podcast. We're going to tape early Monday morning, and hopefully you will have that early Monday afternoon. But thanks again, everyone, for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you all later.